Hearthstone European Grandmasters is underway, and we're getting into our third match of the day. You just saw a piece with ETC, who is a Grandmaster from the Americas region. He'll be taking on Nalguidan later today, who is the only Shaman player that's in the field. Nalguidan is. But our match of the day, Casie versus RDU, is coming up. And Derek, I am very excited at this one because Casey's sticking to his guns. He's bringing the Bomb Warrior back this week.
I mean, why wouldn't he? He was just kind of unbeatable in the first week. He was playing the Bomb Warrior deck in the way that I don't think it was initially built to function, which is to just curve out and kill your opponent. Turns out it's one of the strongest aspects of the deck. He's shaken up his deck list a little bit this week, going with a slightly more value-oriented line of play with the Omega Assemblies put back in, Geppetto Joybuzz thrown in there as well to try and get an extra activation of Elysiana as well. But up against RDU, all that late-game fatigue matters little up against the onslaught of another Cyclone Mage. He needs to be finding either early aggression or a heck of a lot of removal.
RDU has a bit of a tech Cyclone Mage that's for the mirror match, so perhaps there's something in store for him that is not as, intended as planned. But we got something in store for you in case you don't know these two players. Let's get to know them a little better.
My name is Kevin Casie Eberlein. My Twitter is CasieHS, and my Twitch TV channel is Twitch TV Casie1. I used to be really, really shy. I wanted to not go to the 2016 playoffs because I was so shy. I actually was super shy. And then Thais, Crane talked to me, and I just got a confidence boost. Sodal came to me, Froden came to me, and were like, yeah, you played really well. And I was like, okay, nice. And from there I changed quite a lot. I usually play really fast because what I'm really good is at playing off muscle memory. So at the start of any meta game, the first week, I figure out the best decks, but I play them pretty poorly. So I just keep playing them till I actually know everything in and out. Preparation is key. A Grandmaster means to me that the last year of 2018 was a success. My goal was to get to the highest level of competition, and Grandmaster is the highest level of competition. You still have to work hard to keep playing in it, because keeping a 50% win rate against the best players in the world is really, really difficult. You're always gonna see the highest competition. I don't only like Hearthstone, I love it, it's my passion. If you like something, you just look at it in a different way.
My name is Dimarado, also known as RDU, and you can find me at G2RDU on Twitter. I really like food in general. There's nothing better than just a nice steak with some vegetables. If I wouldn't be a Hearthstone pro, I would probably be a cook myself. I feel like it's so complicated, kind of like deck building in a way. You have to find all these recipes and tweak them and adjust them and then perform really well with them. So my personal goal for this year is to make the playoff for Grandmasters both times, and hopefully one of those times to win it. But the competition is fierce, and everybody wants to get there in those two spots. So it's gonna be super difficult in my opinion. In Shanghai, I felt like I brought the best lineup. And after winning 3-0, 3-0 in my group and making top 8, I was 2-0 up against Colento in the most important game of the tournament, which qualifies you to the World Championship. And then I got reverse swept. So that was really tough. And it took me a while to recover from it. But now I'm reignited. I have an opportunity to show how good I am and just prove all these point earners that they're not the only ones that are good at the game.
Our match of the day, Casie taking on RDU in this one, and I have to give the food edge to RDU in that.
He's a foodie like yourself.
He likes to cook up his own stuff, very much like his own Hearthstone decks.
He does. I think he made his own almond milk.
He does. He talked to me about crushing up the almonds into almond flour and baking with it as well.
Wow.
Very healthy lifestyle.
I don't make my own milk, so I've got no legs to stand on.
The only thing you make is a fool of yourself, and sometimes of me. Let's take a look at RDU's deck list and see what he's cooked up for this week. Pair of Sandbinders in the list with 2 Doomsayers and 2 Snapfreeze. This is a deck, Derek, that looks very aimed at the mirror match.
Absolutely. Double Snapfreeze to be taking out those enemy giants is exactly what you're looking for. However, he has not found himself that mirror. Up against the Warrior, we are looking for big, meaty cards to throw onto the board and try and outvalue your opponent, of which in this deck, it's really only Archmage Antonidas is as good as it gets, which, as we've seen from Hunter Ace, is very good.
Yep, from Colento in week 1 too.
Right.
Looked very strong.
Exactly. Against the Warrior, it's very, very strong indeed. as now we are going into Casie's Bomb Warrior. This is, as I was alluding to earlier on, a little bit more the standard Bomb Warrior that we're seeing at the moment. At least I would say very much in the German scene. I've seen Zirios piloting this deck very well. Casie obviously as well bringing it. With Barrister Lynchen and Geppetto Joybuzz, both really trying to cheat out a cheaper Elysiana or a cheaper Barrister Lynchen and get multiple activations of it.
Geppetto and Barrister Lynchen.
Yes.
And you say a bit more standard.
This is the deck that I've been seeing most
I have
often.
never seen these two cards in the same deck.
Really?
Never.
This is the list on Twitter.
Aside from today seeing it, and of course yesterday when we were looking over the submissions and playing the decks and trying to get a better idea of what was going through the player sets. Before that,
Right.
I had never seen those two cards in the same deck.
I agree. It is brand spanking new. This list has been around for, well, a maximum of 2 days, because that's when the nerfs actually hit. But I mean, it could very well be that this is just a transitory list until we evolve onto something a little bit more refined and countering what the meta is more consisting of. But for the moment, this is the list that I'm seeing most heavily, and I think it's a pretty smart way of going about it. There are a lot of incredibly powerful Battlecry minions in Bomb Warrior.
I think there's exactly 2 cards in Casey's deck that could have made him think about coining this turn. Number 1 was Blastmaster Boom, and number 2 was Dr. Boom Mad Genius. Casie plays very quickly for the most part. Him drawing those 2 cards, he rubs his eyes under his glasses and goes,
right.
I really don't want to coin here, but I think I have to.
Sorry, I thought you were saying that the Dr. Boom is the one thing that would make him coin. Where I was going to say...
No, would not make him
right,
coin.
yeah, because Casie he's coining 3 into 3 every single day of the week.
This looks like Casie from last week.
Absolutely.
Having the 3s early on.
Yep, he's curving out very nicely indeed. I honestly wouldn't be too surprised if we even just see the Omega Assembly. Oh! Unless he top decks the Militia Commander, of course.
And something that I like about Casey's list that I'm still surprised players are not using, double Elec, double Clockwork Goblin. The 3s early add an immense amount of pressure to this deck. Normally, this deck is going to have to function fairly similarly to Control Warrior.
Yeah.
When you have 2/3 drops in your hand and coin, you turn into like a weird hunter deck, where it's like instead of getting hero power to deal 2 damage, you're just hoping that 5 damage kill commands to your opponent's face show up as they draw cards. Stupid analogy, I know, but that's what it feels like to me. Like, it feels like these Clockwork Goblins are more akin to an animal companion than they are to a Control Warrior deck.
I love these inclusions. Did you manage to catch Ike's kind of Grandmasters talk show he did earlier on in the week with
I
Craig?
watched just a little bit of it. I didn't quite have time to finish the whole thing.
Right, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure he'll post it on his Twitter, or you can catch the VOD on his Twitch page. That's IKHS, I believe is his Twitter handle. But anyway, he does like a kind of weekly wrap-up he started doing of Grandmasters, and both him and Crane, who were doing it, chose a list they liked most and a list they liked least. And Crane gave his best deck of the week to Casie. He thought it was the best built version of the deck, curving out beautifully every game, doing exactly what the deck is trying to do.
I did not realize you could do this. In my head, double Evocation just did not parse as a possibility. And 2 Grave Horrors is what RDU gets. And Super Collider is what Casie top decks! That is a huge draw!
Who is this man? He had already attacked face with both Clockwork Goblins before we had seen him draw the Super Collider off the top. A miracle has to happen now for RDU to swing this game back in his favor.
Infinite magic tricks into Mana Cyclone.
Why not?
Casie, you may notice the new Complexity logo, who, by the way, Crane is Complexity teammates with Casie. They were recently purchased by the Dallas Cowboys NFL organization, and they opened a new facility in Frisco, Texas.
Very fresh new set of attire.
Super cool. You love to see that.
Also, another member, Tyler, in Grandmasters.
That's right.
Asia Pacific.
Saw Tyler compete in Asia Pacific, where he had a very close match versus Dawn that he narrowly was defeated in. But it was an exciting match.
Speaking of exciting matches, here for Casie, still plenty of options.
Yeah, it slowed a little bit. Just, this was a pretty big turn for RDU.
It's slowed down, but there's still plenty of interesting options. We could see double Warpath here is an argument, just to clear off the minions and push face. Ziliak's non-magnetized could come down, and then the Super Collider hit could be used to hit the 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice and Mana Cyclone together.
Mecharoo. Dynomatic here. Super Collider here.
Oh, that's true. Dynamatic as well. Yeah, okay.
Casie, extremely interested in pushing face damage as well. Uses a
I love
Super
it.
Collider effectively for a 3 damage swing to face.
This is Casie. This is what he does. He's realizing what his biggest advantage is in this game, which is making it as difficult for RDU early on as he possibly can.
Turn your removal into damage when you have a lead. Face go minions, minions go face, and when you have minions, spells go minions. And when you've hit them in the face enough with your minions, ideally, your spells go face.
You know what?
It's very simple when you break it down.
This is what I mean. Being a European Hearthstone player in EU Grandmasters, I've got to say, it's nice to have an NA influence of just smork, smork, smork.
It's awesome. That's what I love doing. And Casie, if you're not going to have a strong answer to a Doomsayer, you have about the second best thing you can do. Which, he drew Shield Slam, so he gets to Shield Slam, and oh my gosh! Casie, stop! Let the man do something!
Just shift his hoodie, like, yeah. So what? I've drawn the perfect card off the top. 5 turns in a row.
is getting beat up.
He absolutely is, but here is where one of the powerful turns starts happening. Luna against Warrior is remarkably powerful.
Mind you, RDU's at 12, and there's 2 bombs in the deck, and he's chaining draws with Luna right now. This is dangerous, but I think this is what RDU has to do.
And that's exactly what he is doing. Just trying to wrestle any kind of board presence back together.
And Casie here, the Geppetto, it looks interesting to me, but Luna and Sorcerer's Apprentice is a very scary proposition.
Yeah, which is why I'm looking at either Ziliax, I guess magnetized onto Mekaru, or with the shield block. Either way works fine. Take out the 2 mirror images with your minions and then swing the Super Collider into the Luna for a full clear. Or Warpath is also worth considering, but I think I prefer the Ziliax lineup play.
I typically tend to prefer not blowing up my own minions whenever I can.
Get a bit sarcastic with me there, mate.
Sometimes you gotta. Sometimes you gotta.
All right.
But yeah, let's go.
Exploring the possibilities. But just look at this. A Divine Shield taunted minion in the way, protecting these 2 Clockwork Goblins, which, let me remind you, have been in play for 7 turns coming up.
Only turn 2 and turn 3.
That's insane.
Mage does not handle wide pressure super well.
It doesn't handle anything. It just has to do its own thing.
And that's why the Bomb Warrior deck, I think, needs to be built in the way that Casey's built it. You know, like, you take a look at Swid's list from the first match. It's doing a lot of these similar things, but there's only 1 copy of Elec. There's 2 copies of Acolyte of Pain, where Casie has 0. There's no Super Colliders in the main deck. Like, Casie is taking full advantage.
He gets the Lich as well. He would have added all those minions back to his hand. He could have had another Geppetto Joybuzz to throw down. And RDU wants absolutely nothing to do with that.
Casie is on a tear right now. And so there's 3 things that are happening right now when I look at Casey's matchups. I've been saying this in Hearthstone for about half a decade. You have to build your deck well, you have to play that deck well, and you have to get a little bit lucky. When you're playing against the elite of the elite in your region, and you're squaring off against them for 14 matches, you're going to need some good fortune on your side. Casie is getting it and taking absolutely maximum advantage. Right now, it's looking like he's going to be able to breeze to a 3-0 score.
I absolutely agree. We saw from him there just at every possible opportunity, he found that chip damage through to face. Even just by going with the coin Clockwork Goblin into Clockwork Goblin, that was not necessarily an automatic play to be making. I agree it was the best one, as I'm sure you did there. But he could have considered holding it back for Coin Dynamatic or Coin Dr. Boom, as you said when he picked that up. But I think he really beautifully realized what his power was in that matchup. As we saw in our interview, in the first interview of the day, when Hunter Race was saying that he thinks Elix is the biggest weakness of Mage because you just go face and you kill them, which is exactly what Casie did.
He got big fortune with that Super Collider in the middle of the game, but, you know, stuff like that will win you games when it's timed properly. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to find out if RDU and maybe one of his other decks can go ahead and take care of this. He gets to swap out some cards. We'll find out if he can shore up the matchup and get rid of some of these freeze cards he has in the main.
is Brian Eason, also known as Bloodyface. When I first started playing Hearthstone, the first deck that I crafted was Miracle Rogue, and it was pretty much the only deck I played. I love combo style decks. I don't like really being aggressive per se, but I like having a deck that has a very aggressive finish. I think my X factor, maybe my defining characteristic, is that I think about everything. I mean, you could say that's like a characteristic of overthinking, but I think it's important to overthink because you're playing against like the best minds, and it's important to be understanding that everyone else is also capable of doing that, so you need to be able to outthink everybody. From a competitive standpoint, I want to improve as a player. Against Hunter Ace, I think I made a pretty big mistake. I really care about just making sure that whenever I play Hearthstone, it's my best Hearthstone. Initially, when I found out about Grandmasters, I kind of felt like, it was just like kind of another league. But it wasn't until I was actually standing next to the other Grandmasters at Worlds that it made me feel like kind of emotional. We just had such a high concentration of like pure talent to actually hit that level and, rub shoulders alongside them. It means a lot to me. Playing at the highest level is super interesting because people do unpredictable things. So I look forward to the mind games.
European Grandmasters for Hearthstone. We just saw Bloodyface, who will be competing in the Americas region, not today, but on Saturday and Sunday. You can catch your favorite players every single week they'll be competing, so make sure you check the schedule and see exactly how things are going to be panning out. But something that I want to note is that Bloodyface on Twitter had mentioned that he thinks Warrior defeats Mage if it's built right, and he submit Warrior for this week's competition, anticipating lots of players bringing Mage. And right now, Casie, I think, is showing one of the ways that Warrior can beat it. Lots of aggression, and then a timely card to wipe out the opponent's pushback.
Absolutely. It's a way that a lot of Warriors have not been playing. And I know, as you said, that Bloodyface is a player who is not afraid to admit when he thinks other players are not doing what they should, are not playing well. And so I'm sure he will be very happy to be seeing, as he stated, that Casie is beating these mages with his Warrior, especially as Casie is now switching over to his tertiary deck, which is the anti-mage variant, slotting in a second Super Collider, 2 Big Game Hunters, and 2 Slams.
Takes out 2 Militia Commanders, Elysiana, a Warpath, and a Town Crier. On RDU side, we're adding up an Acidic Swampoos, a Messenger Raven, a Harrison Jones, and 2 Astromancers. Yep. I feel like RDU's list supplements a little bit here, but it much more aimed at Control Warrior than Bomb Warrior.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
For Casie, Augmented Delic into potentially Omega Devastator on the following turn. We saw him throw back a pair of Wrench Calibers and a Big Game Hunter in the mulligan. Really speaks, I think, to how important 3-cost minions are versus this deck.
He just wants to get him down early on and start hitting RDU as soon as he can. Also, because it gives him a nice little bit of response to early pressure that RDU could throw down, because I think we're seeing more and more as this mage deck develops, willingness to just play out Sorcerer's Apprentice, just play out Luna and demand that your opponent answer them. Because if the Warrior does throw down, say, a Shield Slam on a minion as small as that, you absolutely take that as a win as the mage.
And for RDU here, facing down the Elec is presenting, just about that exact thing right now. He would have loved to play Stargazer or Luna, I think, on this turn. You're going to risk it getting hit by Militia Commanders, but you can anticipate Casie taking those out because you get open list in this one. In
That's
Specialist, right. as the decks pan out, you get to see what your opponent's game plan is in totality. So he can see that if Casey's gone with his Big Game Hunters with his Super Collider, it means that there is no Militia Commanders anymore.
Save the best for last.
As the onslaught for Casie very much carries on.
That's right. Chillwind Yeti, big weakness of Mage.
Well, I mean, yes. It is a big weakness of Mage.
Weird.
It's true. And it's also interesting because Casie, the obvious play on this turn, I would argue, was Wrench Caliber. You have the effect of Elec in play, so let's shuffle 2 bombs into my opponent's deck. But this is so in keeping with his game plan, which is to get minions on board, play aggressively in the early game.
Ooh.
What's making you ooh there?
So, RDU's drawn a card this turn. He takes Mirror Image, but now it's getting run over by the Sandbinder there.
Yeah.
So effectively, this Elysiana is going to be buying extra health unless RDU wants to try and disrupt this turn, which Mirror Image right now does disrupt the turn unless Casey's got a Slam or Wrench Caliber, in which case that Stargazer Luna is going to bite the dust. Casie has Wrench Caliber.
Yep, that's a pretty easy turn for him.
I am very worried for RDU that he's going to get pushed out of this game and not have the ability to fight back. Like I'm looking at, he needs to draw a Mana Cyclone, And honestly, I'm not sure that the Sandbinder into Mana Cyclone is going to be enough time.
I imagine Casie ends up taking the Hecklebot here just because Boom Reaver feels a little bit too late game oriented.
I'm looking at the list. We got 1 Doomsayer, 1 Khadgar, 2 Mana Cyclone, 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice, 2 Sandbinders, and then Antonidas Sea Giant, Mountain Giant, Mountain Giant. I am quite surprised that he's taken Hecklebot here.
Really?
Yeah. I don't feel like any of those minions are minions I want to hit.
Fair enough.
I guess we do add in an Ooze, a Messenger Raven, 2 Astromancers, and a Harrison Jones, so, you know, a lot of misses in there as well.
I think it was fine, especially as he can...
Another Wrench Caliber!
With minions on board, Casie was able to respond to whatever came out. But as you said, with the Wrench Caliber coming down as well, this is now 4 bombs that are in RDU's deck, soon to be 6, maybe even 8 if there's a swing and a Clockwork Goblin next turn.
My gosh!
RDU is being blown to Kingdom Come here.
You got a Calling, right?
I guess.
If your opponent's going to Super Collider, it overrides it.
They have to override the weapon, yeah. So Elemental, Evocation, then Mountain Giant, and Conjurer's Calling.
And I feel like you have to do something to try to grab an aggressive edge because the bombs have built up so densely in RDU's deck after this next weapon swing that if you don't start getting going now and try to close this game, Casie has a lot of inevitability on his side.
And so, okay, so other options, you would like to play the Ooze on this turn, so we could see Ooze double Ray of Frost Mana Cyclone just to stop any damage coming through whatsoever.
So let's talk about Ooze, Quad Ray of Frost, and Mana Cyclone.
Okay.
So the ordering there is going to be to generate the proper amount of cards in your hand, because the Ray of Frost, because they're 2 spells, ends up filling up your hand too much.
You pretty much always just way overdraw there, and I think it's coming to the same conclusion that you did right at the start, which is that's fancy, but this is the most powerful. You just got to pray you get some Grave Horrors here. That's 1. That'll do for the moment.
Oh boy. Huge draw from Casie. 7, 10 more
This
damage.
could just be game.
And there's 6 bombs in RDU's deck, and he's at 5. For the rest of the game, if RDU draws a single bomb card,
The
which
game
right
is over.
now, it's a fourth of his deck. That's game. And he has to fend off the pressure, and he has to find a way to close. There's almost 0% chance RDU wins.
There's just how does he even get back into this game? Conjurer's Calling allows RDU to maybe fend off any damage coming through.
My plan right now is face, freeze the board, and Conjurer's Calling, and I don't know, hope that something
I
pans
guess.
out.
Yeah. You got to end the game right now to have a chance as RDU.
3 more spells coming. No help.
So for Casie, I reckon we could very happily see a brawl on this turn.
Hecklebot
Clockwork
thins the
Goblin.
deck as well.
That's
So
true.
it actually increases bomb density.
I love this as well, getting the bomb down first.
Loads up the brawl.
Yeah, you don't care about losing minions here. You just want to make sure that nothing survives from your opponent. That's fine.
I mean, RDU's got to go. It's Astromancer, and you don't need to mirror image, I don't think.
Right.
Because you don't need to protect your own face. However, you might preemptively do it. The difference is going to be, are 8s or 9s better? And right now, 9s are stronger on average than 8s are. At one point, the 8s were very dense and very powerful, but it's not quite the same anymore.
Yep, I agree. With the, what is it, Heroic Bartender, I think, thrown in there. as
However,
well.
if you think about the 8s that are there, I'm wondering if there's one that's actually a bigger benefit to RDU. Like, is there anything that provides healing, like Deranged Doctor?
Deranged Doctor's the big one, right?
So he actually could be seeking some strange outs in that situation to try to get the victory.
Now, Casie, with the Geppetto Joy Buzz, if he was to find Barista Lynchen, he could throw that down first.
Well, it's a take damage turn.
Yeah.
Bomb.
There we go.
Casie. 2-0. And moves up to 3-0 in Grandmasters. Now, mind you, there were 7 of those in RDU's deck.
I think there might even have been 8 with the extra activation at the end there. Whatever it was, there was a huge amount of damage in that deck. And Casie, This is just too easy for him at this point.
That's seriously what it's looking like. I mean, again, he's getting pretty good draws, but the recognition, to throw back the entire hand
Yes.
and look for 3-cost cards, and then also the unbridled initiative to just jam an Omega Devastator down on turn 4 and start attacking with it. That's the kind of heat I think you have to have with this deck in order to really succeed with it, is just maximize your damage potential against decks that take some time to get going.
And again, I think it's like you said, the three facets that you highlighted of building well, playing well, and getting lucky to be a good Hearthstone player. I think the building well aspect is what has led him to have such easy games, because he has just curved out pretty well in pretty much every single one of his games, but he has built his deck specifically to do that. It's not an accident that he's the only player that's going Elec and Clockwork Goblins. He's playing 2 copies of Augmented Elec, where most players are not. He went for this game plan, and it is paying off with huge dividends.
Indeed it is. Casie sounds like he's ready for an interview. Casie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Holy smokes, man. This is 3-0 now, and you are making it look easy. Talk to me about this week. You brought Bomb Warrior again. You have some pretty unique changes in it, though. Geppetto Joybuzz and Barista Lynchin. How did you come up with this list? Who did you practice with? And just talk to me about the week in general with the balance changes and such.
So I was clueless. I did not want to submit Bomb Warrior again. Bunny Hopper and Ivy practiced a lot of Hunter, and I was like, okay, let's submit Hunter. It looks good. But then I couldn't win a game. And I was like, okay, Sirius and Viper, do you have a deck for me? You did well with Bomb Warrior. Let's just put in Geppetto.
So Sorry, go ahead.
Then we just came up with putting in Barista and Geppetto, and Geppetto is really good. Barista is a little bit, but yeah.
Well, as you were saying, you were prepping with Bunny Hopper and Viper, as you often tend to do. How come you all ended up with different decks here? Because I believe Bunny Hopper's on the Hunter and Viper is on the Zoo, and you're here with Bomb Warrior. What's the difference in thinking there? Is it because you're facing different opponents, or you just have different play styles?
So it's basically different opponents. And Bunny Hopper's comfort deck is like Hunter right now. My comfort deck is Warrior. And Viper just expected Board Control to play Mech Hunter.
Right.
So he was like, yeah, I don't want to play Warrior.
So you messed in the Barista not being the best choice kind of with your body language there. Is there something you would have changed about this deck, whether it be in the primary, the second, or tertiary decks, or are you pretty happy with this list overall?
I would just either put in an Acolyte or an Execute.
Just to help blow stuff up and draw cards?
Yes.
All right. Well,
I
Casie,
want to play stuff.
I have noticed you've been mulliganing very aggressively for 3-cost cards, and it's working. So don't stop doing it. Casie, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on your 3-0, and I look forward to seeing you play later this week.
Thanks. Bye. Have a nice day.
I'm already having a nice day.
I'm having a fantastic day.
Some great games of Hearthstone.
I like when people just take aggressive stances and get payoffs. And we've seen that in every single match so far. It's the players who are taking aggressive initiative being the ones who succeed. And so what that's telling me is that in Grandmasters, your competition is so tough that you cannot rely on building a reactive game plan that topples your opponent's strategy. You have to find a way to be proactive.
I think I agree with you mostly. I think the really interesting thing, though, this week isn't necessarily just taking aggressive game plans. It's playing the deck in the way it was not originally envisaged to play. So, for example, with the Bomb Warrior, people were expecting it to be a control deck early on. You play Shield Slams, you play Brawls, you play Warpath, you just clear and then shuffle bombs in at the end. Casey's saying, no, you kill your opponent by curving out turn after turn. With the Cyclone Mage, it was originally built to be going Mountain Giant into the Conjurer's Calling every single game. While that's powerful and people are doing that, we're seeing players like Hunter Ace in the first game of the day going for different game plans, making wide boards, just playing out banana buffoons and buffing their minions with the bananas because it's aggressive and that just kills your opponent.
Psycho doing the exact same thing as well. Just great aggressive play throughout, as he demonstrated in his first week of play here as well. So that's our third 2-0 of the day, which brings to conclusion to our match of the day of Casie versus RDU. We got 2 more matches that are coming up here, though. It's the Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region. Orange versus Pavel coming up